So, I got a new mic, because my other headset kind of broke. So I figured, now would probably be a pretty interesting time to practice just unscripted talking and rambling about a game that I like quite a bit. And that would be Planetside 2. The reason why I like this game is primarily because it's kind of like it fits every genre. It's a sandbox because you can build stuff. It's a first-person shooter because, well, that's kind of obvious. It's a vehicle combat simulator, and you know, fighting people at night is a horror game simulator. And I really like the diversity in playstyles it provides. It's one of those games that just, there are no other versions. It's a very rare instance to have a game like this. I want to apologize first of all for the absolutely atrocious frames per second on this video. This game is not very well optimized, and all of the frames are basically being sent to my actual computer instead of the recording. But it should still be discernible to see what's going on. Just know that I'm not actually playing with that low FPS. That would not be possible. Although, even if I had more FPS, it wouldn't really increase my skill. One of the main things that I have a problem with this game, to be honest, is the little nuances of balancing. I'm not a fan of how diverse the factions are. They have access to some types of weapons that others just don't. And a lot of weapons are really bad and some are really good. But I'm not a fan of how some factions have access to some specific weapons and others don't. Especially because playing on one faction and building up a character and building up a name is kind of the big part of this game, since it's kind of an MMORPG. It's a persistent world kind of game. And it's a little bit hard to do that because, at least when I play the game, I keep getting upset that I'm not playing optimally because my faction doesn't have access to X or Y weapons. And that's not a very good feeling to have. This is also compounded by when there are events and you want to get the cosmetics for that event, or directives. Not directives, because I understand that directives are based off specific weapons, but like for this event and the mission for the 8-year anniversary thing, it gives you cosmetic items and sometimes weapons that can be used by every faction, but you have to do it on every character you have. So I'm on my GamePro 5.5 character because my original character was 1 less 5, and that was on the purple faction, but I grew to resent the purple faction because I was not a fan of... because I spent like an absurd amount of time looking at the wiki and reading every stat imaginable, and I couldn't help but feel like I was putting myself at a disadvantage for no real upside when I was using the overwhelming majority of the purple guys' weapons. And that's not a good feeling to have. The feeling that you feel like your time was wasted playing one faction, and then you really want to hard switch to playing another faction, but you don't have the time or skill or dedication to grind out that faction. It's basically starting from scratch. The only thing that's kept is the cosmetics that you've paid real world money for, like bundles. If it were up to me, personally, I think that either every faction should have access to every weapon and every vehicle in the game, or um, every cosmetic and every cert that you get is transferred to all of your accounts. It's it would be account wide instead of character wide. I feel like that would also help a lot with the grind. Another cool thing that I think would, you know, probably help the game quite a bit is if you remove this kind of concept of characters or made it so that your battle rank is account wide, it would make it so that when you click the join battle button, the game could try to find an area with players of roughly the same battle rank to deploy you to kind of introduce a pseudo matchmaking system while keeping the open world nature of the game intact. It would kind of nudge players to fight other players of their own skill. But the reason why, if this was implemented now, the reason why it wouldn't work is because you can create like a ton of different accounts, a ton of different characters, and it's a lot easier than just creating a new account. So it would make smurfing a little bit harder. I think this fight was won. I use the join combat button a lot because I like to get deployed to different little areas. What I really love about this game is this whole map that you see. It's divided up into little sections or territories, but there's no loading screens ever. It's always just, it's one big world. So you could theoretically run from one point to another, or take a aircraft and just fly from one side of the map to the other side of the map, and it would work just fine. That's pretty cool. It's a really unique kind of part of the game, and also my frames are completely dying. Oh my god, even on the not video, they're horrendous. But whatever. I genuinely feel like a lot of the stress of, because I'm like trying to, I don't know if this is the same for other people, but when I play a game, I study the wiki. Well, when I first play a game, I first download it and play for a bit, and then if I like it, I start to religiously study the wiki. And the more I read into the statistics of every weapon in the game, the more I'm able to see how different and objectively unbalanced a lot of the factions are. The primary thing that every player can get behind is definitely the battle tanks. It's really infuriating to know that some faction has a different battle tank than yours that you can't use, but that is objectively superior in specific circumstances. Critical. Such as the Prowler having more damage output and is great for destroying, well, it just does more damage in general. And the Vanguard, which is the tankiest, but doesn't necessarily do as much damage as the Prowler. And then the Vanguard, which I don't personally enjoy, but is a little bit more mobile than the other tanks. And does about the same amount of damage as the Prowler. As the Vanguard. Those little things get kind of annoying after a while.
Generator stabilized.
This is kind of a cool little area. It's like a ruined bridge. I don't think I've ever been here, to be honest. One more thing that I think is really important, and I think that this is just like obvious, and it's probably been on the developers' minds for quite a while, but there are probably technical limitations, like their servers just aren't strong enough to have this happen. Because Hearthstone also has the same problem, and these are both games made by pretty big companies. But basically, it's really annoying how your character is not only faction locked, but region locked. So if all of a sudden you decide to move to a different place in real life, you're basically going to need to start a new character or suffer terrible ping. Because I can't choose to go on another server. I need to play on the server that I'm on right now. It has the best ping for where I live right now, but if I choose to move in the future, that's not going to go too well. And if we're in off hours, where there are not a lot of... Oops. Shit. I don't know what I was trying to do. Okay. It's annoying because sometimes this server does not have a lot going on because I'm playing late or early in the morning. And some servers just have more players because the Planetside 2 is a little bit more popular in specific areas, I would suppose. I would assume, I guess. And on this server in particular, there is only one continent active, and most of the time it's in blitz mode, so the full continent isn't even active because there just aren't enough players. And that's kind of annoying. I wish I could just switch to different servers whenever I want to. But I would assume that it's a little bit difficult. And here's why I think that it's always been on the developers' minds, but they've just not been able to do it for whatever reason. Is because if you're on a different server, you still can't use the username or the character name of someone who's on another server. So clearly their intention was to make characters not server specific, but it's been this way for about 8 years, almost 9 years. So I still hope that it's going to go away, but there's no way to know for sure. I don't really need to explain why it's not ideal to have characters be region locked, but I'm still hopeful. Oh my god, my frames. Holy crap. My mouse, my sensitivity was not, I wasn't able to aim. For some reason my sensitivity gets really weird when I have low FPS. It's harder to aim. Another issue with this game, but I can't really complain, is performance, and it's been like this for forever. I'm not really surprised that it's this way because this is a really ambitious title. It's a chaotic, like, open world first-person shooter, and it's very hard with like semi-realistic graphics, so it's obviously going to be very difficult to make a well-running game. But with how fast time to kills are in this game, you need to have performance on your side, otherwise a few frame drops are just enough for you to die, for it to be the difference between your weapon pulling through or not. That's pretty annoying. But I guess I'm also recording at a very high resolution, so my computer isn't even that bad. I can't imagine how bad it would be for players with average computers. Some complaints that a lot of people have is that it's too grindy. Like, never mind the fact that you need to start from scratch when you make a new character or want to try out different weapons on a different faction. Never mind that. Even more specific is the fact that just gaining certification points to get upgrades and different weapons on one faction, one character, is incredibly slow for anyone who isn't a god at the video game. It's gotten a lot better over the years. There are now quests that you can do to give you a decent amount of certifications. But I can only on average pull, if I'm lucky, 1,000 certifications per day. And that is me playing the game for most of the day because I'm on vacation. And that is abysmal because that's only enough to get you one weapon with no modifications like scopes or anything to that weapon, or parts like a forward grip, which are 100 certifications each usually.
Generator stabilized.
The game, like, one of the things that I wish the game just started off with, but that nobody can change now, is I wish the time to kills were not as fast as they are. Like, people die really quickly. It's basically just a difference of if you see someone first and you shoot the first shot, then you basically already won that fight. That's how fast time to kills are in general. But that's just a different kind of, I guess it's just a difference between, like, classic first-person shooters, which this one has been kind of inspired by, where time to kills are much quicker, and, like, hero-based shooters, where like Team Fortress 2 and Overwatch, where time to kills are generally much slower. And this game has a class-based system as well, but I guess it's got time to kills more similar to that of, like, what's that? What's the name of that garbage game that I don't like at all, that was very popular? Oh, CSGO. It's kind of similar to that. I could rant on for days about the little differences between every faction's weapons, but from what I understand after playing the game for quite a bit, is that on average the TR have faster firing weapons than the NC, which are the blue guys. But the difference is that NC deal more damage per shot, so the time to kills are very similar, but on average the TR have a slightly higher time to kill. But it's a little bit harder to control the bullets from the TR because they shoot so fast and their recoil kind of goes everywhere. Meanwhile, most of the time on the blue guys' weapons, the recoil goes straight up and it's very easy to compensate for, especially because it shoots relatively slower. Get more per shot, if that makes sense. And then the purple guys, every time I try to compare them, it makes me feel really sad because I have the most hours on my purple character, and I feel like it was wasted because the purple characters have the same damage model on average as the red guys, so their bullets deal the same amount of damage. But they have little modifications in places that I don't find very useful, like a little bit faster reload speed, usually a bit faster projectile velocity. All that and their downside is, on average, they shoot slower than the red guys, but they still shoot on average faster than the blue guys. But they deal the same damage per shot, so their time to kills is the worst out of every faction on average. And that's pretty annoying. That's just like the trends of their weapons. Oh, and also the purple guys have a completely useless trait that clickbaited me into picking them first. I thought no bullet drop meant hit scan. It does not. It just means that your bullets aren't affected by gravity. And yes, bullets in this game take time to travel like arrows. They're not hit scan. And they're affected by gravity. And so you can imagine how much, like, it's a miracle that a server manages to handle so many of these bullets flying everywhere with physics applied to them, especially with guns that shoot fast like this. It's incredible that this game can run at all, but I totally understand how it performs badly. But yeah, the purple guys, on the weapons that you wouldn't really need it in the first place, they don't have any bullet drop, so you're not gonna have to aim a little bit higher. But you would only need to aim a little bit higher if you're shooting at extreme ranges. And so it's never really been a problem for other factions. And the annoying part is that a lot of the purple, all of the weapons where the no bullet drop would be useful, such as tank shells, most sniper rifles, what else? I get apparently slug ammunition for shotguns is still has bullet drop. But even the ones that still have bullet drop, they still have slower projectile velocity, as if they were still trying to compensate for the no bullet drop, because all the weapons that do have, most of the weapons that have no bullet drop on the purple guys also have a lower projectile velocity to try to compensate that, but projectile velocity is in general a lot more helpful than no bullet drop, and so it just makes it slightly worse in every way that you look at it. And even the ones that got bullet drop removed because people complained, like sniper rifles and slug shotguns, they still have slower projectile velocities. So the shotguns are like objectively a direct downgrade, even though they're supposed to be carbon copies on every faction on the purple guys, for no other reason than I guess the developers have just never felt like fixing it. It doesn't really make a difference because it's only like 15 meters per second on a close range weapon. But like, it's so annoying. Like, why? Why? It's just a direct downgrade. I don't care how insignificant it is, it's still just a direct downgrade. Okay, I'm getting owned. And my frames are not really helping. But I don't want to be boring and ramble on about the comparing every weapon on every faction. That's why I really wish that there wasn't faction diversity that was unique to gameplay. Or if you have to have that, then at least making a new character not so grindy for new players that aren't gods at the game. Because the gameplay loop for this game, at least for infantry combat, is basically you get in there, you get 1 or 2 kills, or 3 if you're lucky, and then you just die, and then you respawn quickly. Like, that's it. You respawn at a sunder, stuff like that. It's pretty annoying, but I mean, it can get pretty repetitive, but there are so many fun little things that you can do since it's a sandbox game. You can choose some wacky strategy, like going full, using a module on your infiltrator, which is kind of like the spy from Team Fortress 2, where you can stay invisible as long as you like, and then you just pop out and then like put like 2 pistols, like a revolver shot in someone's head. It's pretty funny, out of nowhere. Or you can go like meme and install some wacky sights on some weapons, or you can try some, you can build a base and then like do tower defense by basically playing Minecraft in the world. but doing that's pretty annoying because it's just gonna get destroyed by like a prowler. Or other tanks as well, but the prowler's pretty good at destroying bases because it just reloads pretty fast and has 2 shells that deal more damage when both connect. I cannot play this video game because I suck so bad. But I still enjoy it a lot. I wish that boosts were account-wide as well, but they're not. Looks kind of cool. Like a dragon. Although it actually looks pretty bad when it's like too large on some vehicles. Makes it look like a bunch of eggs instead of scales, because the scales are too thick. Oh, by the way, one last thing before I get bored and stop this unscripted talking is so there are bastions and there are Colossus tanks, but those are tied to outfits. So if you're just a new player, or if you're just like a player just playing solo, or you enjoy playing with friends, you will probably never be able to control one of these. I don't know why I stopped sprinting there for a second. I had the button held. But it takes an absurd amount of time, because sure, you can make your own faction, like what I did, and I just built it because I wanted to be kind of independent and pull my own vehicles when I wanted to. But if I wanted to make a Colossus heavy tank, that costs 15 of these rare resources, and I only have 6. And the only way to get these rare resources is by capturing the middle point of every continent, and I'll give you 2 of them, as you can see here. And sure, you just need to be in the area while it gets captured. You don't really have to do much work, but it's still very grindy. And then, like, you're probably just gonna get destroyed because, you know, you're gonna pull that tank that you worked for days or weeks to get, and it's probably going to die, or worst case that could ever happen is you accidentally flip it on some, like, wacky terrain, like a weird rock, and then it dies, and you've wasted quite a bit of time. It's pretty annoying. And don't even get me started about bastions, those are even harder to get. But pulling, I've never driven one. I've driven a Colossus tank once. I didn't really know what it was. But you can't even access a bastion in VR training, so in the test world. So you're just never gonna be able to do that unless you have a big club of friends of like 30 people playing the game very often. Or you can join another faction, but if you join another faction, you're not going to be able to drive these vehicles. It's probably going to be the leader that's going to drive those vehicles because, you know, only one person can drive the vehicles. You'll probably be a gunner if you're lucky, but that's kind of annoying. But the game is still fun even without having access to 2 of the biggest and coolest looking vehicles. There's 3 minutes left on this alert. I also wanted to quickly point out something I don't hear a lot of people talking about. The Kindred is freaking broken. Like, it is so overpowered. This weapon that I'm using right now for the light assault, it's busted. If you burst correctly, which is let go of the button and click back again every 7 shots you take, you have a gun that deals 167 damage per shot, which is a damage model usually represented by about 600 rounds per minute, because otherwise it would be too fast and too overpowered. A lot of the blue guys have weapons of this damage profile, but This one shoots at almost 700 rounds per minute, and it has the same damage per bullet model. That is absurd. I'm not doing very well right now because I have like 10 frames per second. But this gun is it takes 3 headshots to kill someone at full health, and you can unleash those headshots incredibly quickly. And so it's like this is probably the fastest weapon in terms of time to kill for point blank headshots. That is not a sniper rifle. It's absurd. Like, look at this. That would be a kill. Those bursts would all be individual kills if they were all headshots. That's how fast this weapon kills. I don't know why people talk a lot about the Cyclone, which is an SMG, but this thing has an even faster time to kill than the Cyclone. And it's a carbine, so you can float around while you use it and stuff. It's completely busted. Oh my god, every weapon I see, I want to go on a rant about how I like that weapon or I hate that weapon. But I'm going to spare you the pain. If you don't care about, you know, playing with the best weapons you can have, the game's fun. Just pick what faction looks coolest and play. You'll probably die a lot, but it's free to down. It's a free game, so might as well. It's really fun with friends too. But I can't stop thinking about the details of every weapon. It kind of ruins the game for me because I obsess over these things. But anyway, that's the end of my video rant. I don't know if my mic is of better quality now. It should be, because these pairs of headphones are quite expensive, and they kind of hurt my head because they're so heavy. I don't know why. The other ones don't hurt my head, but I have to like adjust them every 10 minutes because it hurts. Too much pressure. But yeah. Alright, video over. I'm probably gonna go do a thing or eat something.